What's up? Today we're going over the crazy episode that just happened. And just so you know, I'm doing this episode because with how things worked in my own schedule, this is the episode I just saw. And then I'm going to go back and finish episodes 2 through 6 for Flash, Legends, and then also through Arrow, and then 2 of 7 also tomorrow on Thanksgiving. I'm going to try and do as many as possible tomorrow to just get them out because I know that I'm behind, and if I can get caught up, then I won't have to worry about being so far behind anymore. Let's get right into it. So we leave off on the cliffhanger of 2 of 6, where Barry goes up to the Thinker's house and they have a drop on the guy. They think they finally have the villain ahead of time. Him and Joe are there, and they're just talking to the guy, and he's in a wheelchair. They don't know what's going on. They think it's really strange that this is the guy that the Council of Wells came up with to be the Thinker. And we get immediately a couple hints, and Barry is already convinced, and Barry already knows that Clifford is obviously the Thinker. Whether he's in a wheelchair or not, Barry knows. From the samurai picture relating to the samurai, and him directly speaking at him saying, "Oh, I'm the luckiest man alive," things that Barry said before, and just playing into that role. And so Barry had already figured it out, and it was really cool to just see his detective skills automatically pick all those things up and say, "That's fishy. I've locked onto this guy as my suspect." And I think as a CSI, that's the CSI work, not the Flash work, you know? And then we get into more about the Thinker, and we get some flashbacks to when he got his powers from the particle accelerator explosion. And I think the Flash has kind of stolen the flashback thing from Arrow now that they're not doing it as much, that the first 5 seasons are up. I think that's kind of, they're developing that into their own kind of thing. They flash back to when he got powers. He talked to Dr. Wells after Barry ran out, chasing the guy who stole Iris's purse. And we see that connection. Wells knows, because it's Eobard Thawne. Wells is like, DeVoe, and he kind of is like, oh shit, this guy, he's here right now. Great, like, kind of like, oh shit, you know, one of those, like, I don't want to fuck with this guy, so I'm going to kind of leave him alone. But what's really cool is that DeVoe, we learn just how smart he is. You think that the Thinker's smart, right? But he was already smart enough to know that Harrison Wells was trying to purposely blow up the particle accelerator explosion. He was trying to blow that up. And he knew that just from 10, 20 seconds of conversation with the guy. And so that shows how smart he is. Then he gets the helmet, and his mind expands even further. And now who knows how smart he is? We only are just kind of understanding how many steps ahead he is. There's one thing I want to note, though, is that there's a kind of similar pattern here with what happened in episode 6 and what happened last season with Savitar. Is future Barry never knew who Savitar was. But then, present day, Barry finds out Savitar is a time remnant of himself and meets with him face to face, whereas the future version of himself never did. And this version of Barry is already learning about DeVoe technically before DeVoe was even planning for him to. And so that's kind of the same thing where Barry's kind of catching up faster in the plan than the villain expects. And I don't think they really address that with Savitar. very much. I think Savitar was a little cocky. We all know that he just kind of thought he could get away with whatever he wanted and that he was a god. And thought his plan was totally flawless, even though he was going up against himself. And so, I mean, the Thinker is obviously way smarter, probably has a way more meaningful plan, and we'll get into this. So, 3 is that DeVoe, using all the tricks and deceitful lies that he's using in the wheelchair and just putting everybody off about him being a suspicious character, he turns the rest of the team against Barry. And obviously it doesn't stay that way by the end of the episode, but he even goes as far enough as doing whatever he did to the mug so that when Cisco vibed it, he just saw him eating mac and cheese. So like that shows kind of how far ahead he was. And then Barry confronts him after, well, number 4 we're going to get to, is Barry goes in and investigates his house. He breaks and enters, trying to figure out who he kind of really is. And DeVoe has cameras, gets a snippet of Barry while he's in there, and takes it into the CCPD and says he was in our house. He needs to be gone. And they get a restraining order on Barry, and Barry gets suspended from the force. And then Barry goes back to his classroom again to talk to him, and he's like, "You're breaking your restraining order," and Barry just goes, "Who really are you?" And he just opens straight up, which I don't think he was. I think Barry is a step ahead. I think Barry is ahead of the game on this, because I don't think the look on his face was the kind of like, "Ooh, you figured it out finally," but also like, "That was a little too soon. I wasn't expecting you to get it that fast." So maybe he thought that the restraining order would put him apart for a little while. The Council of Wells would reconvene, come up with another algorithm, and it would still come up with Clifford DeVoe. Barry would investigate again and figure out, have that same exact conversation, but maybe a little bit later into his plan, when they've already released a couple more metas and he's had been distracted for a while. I think Barry's ahead of his plan, but Clifford DeVoe thinks, "Oh, I can outthink this and be able to figure out a way to beat the fastest man alive," because he's saying he's the fastest mind alive. And so he just straight up reveals his powers to Barry, and he doesn't have an end game that he lays out for him, but we see from the chair in that he needs a new host body, that is probably he wants to take over Barry's body. Just because what better host to have the fastest mind alive than the fastest body alive? He can think very fast as well. The Flash can already think at light speed. So why not put the fastest mind thinking at light speed? Any problem is solvable at that point. That's what Clifford DeVoe's kind of end game is to kill Barry or somehow take over his body. And I'm assuming that probably has to do with all the metas in some different way from the bus coming together. I don't know what they have planned for that, but I'm excited to see it. And so that's everything I have on this episode. I'm going to be going back and doing 2 through 6 for this, Legends, and Arrow. Not Flash, I already just... And then another episode of Arrow is tomorrow, so I'll do the Legends and the Arrow videos first, probably as well, and then go back and fill those just really fast. Do like 2-minute videos on what I thought was most surprising from the episode, maybe, just to keep it short. But there's that. I'm excited for the crossover. It's going to be hyped. Monday, Tuesday, next week. Peace out. Stay tuned.